I show 2 minutes. And you have a quorum plus 1. Fazia will be here. Yes, ma'am. Don't you? I told her last night. I told her she needs to start doing that all the time. One minute. She should be here. I hear her. I knew her walk. I have 9:30.
Okay, good morning. Let's call to order, please, the regular board meeting of the Western Municipal Water District. Tammy, would you conduct a roll call?
Thank you. Good morning. Director Torres,
Present.
Director Denstedt.
Good morning, I'm present.
Good morning. Director Roten,
I'm here.
Director Rizvi.
Good morning, I'm here.
Good morning. President Gardner.
I am here as well, and welcome back, Director Torres. Good to see you.
Good morning. President Gardner, you have a full quorum today.
Great, thank you very much. This morning, we're going to be led in the pledge by David Garcia. David, if you would come up and tell us a little about you and
Good morning, everybody. My name is David Garcia. I work for I'm a senior object for the Construction Collections Department, and I've been at Western for 23 years. So yeah, let's please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
thank you, and thank you for all your years of service.
Thank you, David.
Our customers
Say hi to the
thank you,
guys
too.
out there.
Okay, brings us to public comments. Tammy, do we have any?
President Gardner, I've received no written comments and I have no requests to speak, and I see no one online.
Okay, thank you. Brings us to the consent calendar. Anybody have anything they would like pulled?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion second. Tammy, if you do a roll call, please.
Yes.
Director Denstedt,
Aye.
Director Roten,
Yes.
Director Rizvi,
Aye.
President Gardner.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries 5-0.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Miller, do we have anything to add to the agenda?
Nothing to add today?
Okay, thank you. We have a single action item to consider adopting a watch position on Proposition 4, the Parks, Environment, Energy, and Water Bond Measure.
All right. Michael Hadley asked that we not put anything else on the agenda today so that he could get the platform for the entire
ready.
meeting. So we did that.
I've got 2 hours. You got
We
it.
got 2 hours.
Brent.
68 slides. So we did talk about this at ComGov. This is not the first time, as you'll see from the presentation, that we've brought a proposition before the board to take a position. These have been a little bit, controversial in the past, so I think it's good that we're talking about this and, election year and all that. There's lots of politics around, so Michael's going to present on the bill, and I think we had a very robust discussion about this at committee, and the committee members may want to share their thoughts with the board after Michael's done. But Michael, give us the background on Prop 4.
You got it. Good morning, President Gardner and members of the board. My name is Michael Hadley. As previously said, I'm your Government Relations Officer here at Western Water, and I'm here to talk about Prop 4, the Parks, Environment, Energy, and Water Bond measure that's going onto the ballot in November. So a little bit of background on the measure. This originally was SB 867 by Senator Allen. This was a 2-year negotiation that went through many, many changes. This actually went back further than 2 years in different iterations because people have been talking about what's going to be the next water bond, what's going to be the next climate change bond for several years before this moment. And it's been a high priority for the associations. If any of you have ever been in a board meeting with an association or been at a conference or what have you, it seems to always come up as a very high profile thing. The associations really push for it. They gather input from the different member agencies and they say, okay, here's where we think the number should be on that, and then they negotiate from there. The final agreements were made on July 3rd, 2024, which was right at the deadline that it needed to make in order to qualify for the November ballot, but it was pretty much a whirlwind where we kind of heard things under the radar. There's some backroom deals being made, and then all of a sudden, it was like June 29th, we saw a rough draft come out of what AB 867 was going to finally look like, and now it was agreed on July 3rd, and it's now on the November ballot. So some funding categories at large. This is a $10 billion bond that's broken up into these large buckets of funding. As you'll notice, the safe drinking water, drought, flood, and water resiliency portion got the largest out of all the categories, which is great. They got $3.8 billion out of the total of $10 billion. You can see from there, there's a lot of big priorities for a lot of different initiatives in California, including sea level rise, clean air, parks, heat mitigation, those types of measures. So all these things are important, but water did come out on top. Within that budget, here are some categories that I pulled out that would be of interest to us here at Western, at large, thinking about statewide infrastructure. Water storage got $75 million. Water conservation, $75 million. I'm not going to run through all these, but regional conveyance, that's very strategic when it says regional conveyance, so there can't be construed as any other type of major conveyance project that we have supported before. Dam safety, this was a big Aqua initiative, getting $500 million towards dam safety. They almost got $500 million, but it's a number that they had been fighting for because they heard from their members dam safety is a big deal. Delta levee's got some funding in there. An important little caveat, desalination. Originally, when these amendments were being negotiated through the process, it was going to be ocean desal and brackish desal funding. Unfortunately, at the very end, it just ended up being brackish desal. It's a little more politically savvy in this realm, but nonetheless, $62.5 million for brackish desalination. So what do the associations think about this? Obviously, the major water association, the Association of California Water Agencies, they ended up taking a neutral position. And this may surprise a lot of people because why would the leading water agents or association in California take a neutral position? Well, originally in the negotiations, Aqua took a support if amended position on SB 867. Their amendments were that the final bond needed to be at least half of it dedicated to water resiliency in order for it to make a more meaningful impact. Aqua felt strongly that they did not get that amount. They still got the largest funding amount within the overall package, but it wasn't what they had asked for. And so in towing the line and keeping with their position, staff recommended a neutral position rather than, it wouldn't make sense for them to oppose the bill, but they took a neutral. So it was very hotly debated during the legislative committee that decided it was literally split pretty much down the middle as far as whether to stay neutral or to support the measure. Ended up being a neutral position, but folks on both sides were arguing whether or not it made sense for the lead water association to support something that is going to benefit its members at the end, or whether it's going to toe the line on its position in having that be a negotiating point moving forward. CMUA took a different position. They weren't support. The CSDA, California Special District Association, they have not taken a position yet on the bill as far as I know. CASA also ended up taking a watch position. They kind of took it back and they haven't brought it forward to the committee, but if they wanted to, they could bring it up. Same with water reuse and CalDesal. They also, as far as I know at this time, have not taken an official position on Prop 4. Some other considerations for this election. Obviously, as you all know very well, this is going to be a very high-profile election. There's several bonds on the ballot, and not just bonds, but there's a lot of different proposition ballot measures. And as we know in the political science world, the more items that are on a ballot, the less likely people are going to vote for them. So that also is going to be a challenge for this bond. An important caveat that was included kind of at the last minute with this negotiation that wasn't originally in the SB 867 negotiations is that 40% of the bond has to be dedicated to underserved communities, which is admirable, but for us at Western Water, considering within our service area, that could potentially reduce the amount of funding we get here at Western. And then we've already heard from the associations that given how the governor's bond in March did, that this water and parks bond is going to be less of a priority for the governor, and he won't be actively promoting it. So we know all these things are important factors to consider when thinking about this position. Also important to think about is Western's past bond positions. Prop 1 back in 2014, Western did support that one, but obviously that was a just water bond. That was $7.12 billion for all water infrastructure. Prop 68 back in 2018, this was the June primary election. There was a $4 billion measure that was for water and parks that did end up passing, but Western took a neutral position on that. And then in that same year, there was a $8.87 billion water bond for the general election in November of 2018. That bond ended up not passing, but Western also ended up taking a neutral position on that bill. So with that, all those things considered, staff's come back, and after collecting feedback from the Community and Government Affairs Committee, we're coming back to the full board with a watch position. That's a little nuance between watch, obviously, and neutral. Neutral is actively saying, we aren't going to oppose or support it. Watch is really just taking a backseat and saying, you know what, we're not even going to take a neutral position. We're just going to let things pan out the way they pan out. It's a decision on whether or not to weigh in on something. Our regional stakeholders are going to be looking to us as someone who, not necessarily for a position recommendation, but they will certainly ask us, the local chambers of commerce, ask, where is Western on Prop 4? Because they'll want to take a position themselves. And so at least at this point, once we have a full board decision, we can let them know, hey, at this time, Western is a watch or whatever position that the board decides to take. As far as next steps, we already collected input from the committee. We already are here for a board action, and then the next step after this will be educating our key partners on our position, because we already have groups reaching out to us saying, hey, are you going to be willing to join a support coalition of statewide entities to show the widespread support for Prop 4? And we want to be able to come back to them with a position that we are either watch or whatever position we decide to take today. So with that, happy to entertain the discussion and would love to hear your input.
Any comments from board members?
I just have a quick question. Do you guys, do these ballots, do they take polls on which way they're going? Are they going to pass or anything? Like, do they do?
Yes, they've done pretty widespread polling, and the latest polling that I've heard from the associations that it's pretty much right in the middle as far as the support goes in the state right now, given the financial status of the state and all the other factors playing in. I think inflation is really weighing on people right now. So while the different components of the bond are, things that people like, whether or not they want to pay for it is a whole nother discussion. So it's landing mostly right in the middle right now. So it could go either way.
I would add to, the polling can be misleading, and we've all seen that, with presidential elections and other things. But one thing that I was paying attention to is the governor's prop to address homelessness. It polled very strongly, over 60% in favor. But then when it actually came to all of us showing up and voting, barely passed. I mean, like a handful of votes. So, the polling was off by something like 15 points. So it gives me a little bit of concern that this is basically polling at 50% right now. And the governor was all in on the homeless solution. He's not likely to, I don't know, we'll see, but he hasn't expressed that he's going to be in a big support position for this bond, but we'll see.
With that said, I'll make a motion to. Okay,
I
question.
have a question. So two questions. One, do we have any projects that could fit in any of these buckets for us?
Sure.
Okay, and two, is there a cost match proposed on any of this, or is this just money that, how are they dishing this money out?
At that point, we do not know. It would be through grant applications. We would apply for grant funding at the time if one of our projects happened to work, but it would probably be a competitive grant, and if it comes through the state, it's usually 50%.
Yeah.
So we've seen this a lot in the past. And so one of the questions that I get a lot talking about SB 366 when I speak to the public is, well, wait a minute, I thought in 2014 with Prop 1 we fixed water supply. And what happened to that? Well, if you remember, there's $2.7 billion that the voters allocated or voted to allocate to storage, and then the state created a process after that to how you could qualify to get a portion of the 2.7, and the California Water Commission stepped up with all these criteria to select 10 projects to distribute that money to. So that all came after the vote.
Yeah.
So I would anticipate that this will be the same, is the money will get allocated to different agencies to come up with a process that you would qualify for. So like dam safety will go to the Division of Dam Safety, and they'll create, I would think, will create a process to qualify.
Well, here was a girl just dreaming that they actually put all this in writing ahead of time and was just hoping, so.
I didn't see,
Okay,
I
you
didn't see
know,
billions
just-
would go to Western.
So,
So we'll be in,
know.
we'll be looking for it. Obviously, we'll put.
Look, I can
if
have
it
my
does
dreams.
pass- If it does pass, we'll put our name in. We'll try and do everything we can, but we don't know exactly what the process is going to be to qualify for money.
Yeah.
I think that's the battle that took place at Aqua, that mindset of like, okay, do we, they gave us 3.8 billion in this bond. Do we, bite the hand that feeds you and take a neutral position? Or do you say, no, we're going to toe the line. We think that 3.8 billion does not make a meaningful impact on statewide water resiliency. We want to see more of it. We want to work in the future on something better. And so that was the the idea battle that took place up in Sacramento. And so now it's
Yeah.
before us to make a similar choice.
No, the chicken or the egg, got it. Okay, no, those are my questions. I mean, I will go ahead and move staff recommendation. Oh, that's fine, I'll second that, so.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there other comments? If not, I have a couple of comments, and one is, Craig mentioned Prop 1 back in 2014, and today we still hear people saying, what did you do with all that money that we gave you? And we will hear that on this ballot measure. I'm not giving you any more money because you didn't use what I gave you last time. In the terminology between watch and neutral, I think the public sees it a little differently than you described it, Michael. I think the public sees neutral as, we don't care.
Yeah.
And they see watch as, we're interested, but we're not taking a position. And that was part of the discussion at committee, was we were struggling with a way to express an interest and let the public know that we are interested, but we aren't taking a position.
Got it.
And so I think that's kind of the driver on the terminology.
Right.
So.
It's a
with
great
that,
clarification.
One quick question.
Sure.
And we can change positions.
Yep,
coming
always.
before November, right? Okay. All right. That's it.
Okay. If there's no further discussion, Tammy, I assume there is no public comment on this item?
We have no request to speak.
Okay. Then if you do a roll call vote, please.
Director Torres?
Yes.
Director Dinstead?
Aye.
Director Roten?
Yes.
Director Rizvi?
Aye.
President Gardner?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries 5-0.
Great. Thank you very much, Michael.
Thank you.
It's the first time you've stood up there in a very long time and not mentioned SB 366. I think it may be coming up in a report possibly. Okay, brings us then to reports, Mr. General Counsel.
Nothing to report?
Okay, you could report a birthday that happened not all that long ago.
Yes, I celebrated my birthday last week. Thank you. Thank you, President Garner.
Mr.
No
General
other
Manager.
details, I guess, huh?
Actually, it worked out really well because we've gotten both of our general counsels on birthdays.
I know.
Party.
Mr. General Manager.
Okay. I want to welcome Director Torres back. It's good to see you up here again. Well, yeah, I'll do Michael's portion here. SB 366. So, great week last week. We got through appropriations. A couple weeks before, we got through the vote on the House unanimously, and then it went back to the Senate for concurrence, which means, well, we voted on it a year ago. If you've made changes, we need to check those, make sure we're still supportive. So I don't know what the hijinks were last week. It was supposed to go on Monday or Tuesday, didn't go till Thursday evening. And they actually told us this. I love the roller coaster road. But on Thursday they said, oh, this is actually going to end up happening Saturday at the last minute. And then about 2 hours later, Danielle emailed and said, oh, it passed. So it's going to happen fast. Oh, no, now it's going to happen really slow. And then, no, it happened right then. So thrilled that it's done with the legislative process, unanimous the entire way through all 4 policy committees and the 2 floor votes. So that is great news. Now it goes to Governor Newsom's desk, hopefully for signature. He has until September 30th to do that. We've got a fairly robust outreach campaign to encourage that to happen. So Sarah's getting ready. You want to give us some highlights on the outreach campaign, Sarah?
I'll give you one highlight. We had an op-ed published today, so hot off the press, submitted by our own general manager in partnership with Labor, who felt very committed to the bill's purpose and wanted to reiterate the importance that it will provide in terms of future jobs. So I encourage you to look for that online, and I'd be happy to share the link.
Where'd it run?
I will be happy to share that information following the board meeting.
But Capital Weekly was the goal. We'll see where else it ran. So that was good.
Hold on.
Oh.
Pause just a second. Time out. Can we go ahead and acknowledge the general manager and the team and the staff for pushing this and actually getting success to the governor's desk? This is huge, people.
Yay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, so that was a good lead-in. Thank you very much. It takes a village, and I would say, CMUA has been a fabulous partner on this. Danielle Blassett-Hayden has, just been a warrior on this. And, I think back to when we started this, and this, with CMUA, it was initiated. You wonder about business dinners, right? Is there a value, or are you just going out and having a nice dinner? This all launched from a strategic planning dinner that Barry Moline had with our executive committee at CMUA. And we literally, and that executive committee is some people focused on water, some on power, some on both. There was, I think, 5 of us sitting around the table, and Barry, being a good leader, said, well, you're the executive committee for CMUA. What do you think we should focus on for this upcoming year? As the executive director, I want to know where my executive committee is. So we kind of went around, and I was kind of last, and I said, well, remember, this is like 2 years ago. We were coming off of the drought, and I said, Barry, if CMUA is not focused on the fact that the state ran out of water, I don't know why we're even here. And so he asked me more, tell me more, and he says, oh, we're gonna hit this hard. And so that was the buy-in from CMUA. And so Danielle, who, if you know Danielle, was at Aqua, she's just always been in water and really embraced it. But one of the things that CMUA pulled off that was so instrumental is they have a relationship with Senator Caballero, and they went and got Senator Caballero to be the author of the bill after we had written the bill, and we had our Water Solutions Summit group basically craft the bill with all Michael and his team sat down with CMUA's legislative committee and went through several meetings of finalizing the bill language to get this all started. And so that team is, they put the pen to paper and really crafted the language that ended up carrying us quite a ways through. There's been amendments, we've had to take amendments all along, but Senator Caballero was the one that wouldn't take amendments that changed the purpose of the bill. She always kept in mind that we need aspirational targets, we need accountability, and we need an advisory committee to go work with DWR. And so she wouldn't give up on those three. And trust me, people tried to get her off of that, and she would not budge. And I think, we don't know what happened behind closed doors, but I think, her putting her political muscle behind getting it through appropriations was instrumental in the whole thing. And I think we made it easy on her because I think she felt like she was fighting for the right side of things, and she was fighting for water. And, she comes from a water-challenged area, and so she knows how important water is. So I think that was super valuable. And then getting California State Association of Counties and the California Council for Environmental and Economic Balance as co-sponsors brought in a whole bunch of non-water entities to support this and lobby for this. So, we're very proud of getting it through, but, I'm really proud of the team that we put together to get it through. That's what makes the difference. And so it was huge.
What were the three things you said? Aspirational targets, advisory committee, and
And accountability.
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 Triple
So
A.
in the bill, the Department of Water Resources has to report annually on their progress towards setting a target, achieving the target by 2040, and the Department of Water Resources has to go through a process to set a new target for 2050. So they have to report on how they're doing on that. So that we don't want people to, approve this and then just put it on the shelf.
Right.
We want it to make change. And so that's really important that stayed in there. So that's where we are. There's going to be association NASCAR letters that go forward. I did hear from Metropolitan this weekend that they're going to try and push too, which is great. Super happy to have that happen. We would have loved to have had them along for the entire ride, but anything that gets this signed by the governor is going to be super beneficial. So that's my SB 366 report.
Craig, before you go on from that, I just want to point out that it's really unusual for any piece of legislation to go through all the committees and both houses without a single negative vote. And SB 366 did that. And with the push of people who wanted to change the purpose of the bill or make other dramatic changes to still get through every committee and both houses on the floor without a no, that's a really major statement. It's not common at all for that to happen. So, super well done.
I'm forgetting two people. So KP, we hired KP to do an outreach campaign, which your general manager, not knowing how to do these things, was like, why? Don't we just sign up and they all approve the bill? And so I was quickly educated on how this all works. Jenny Dudikoff from KP did a phenomenal job with the outreach campaign, and talk about someone with a mission. She is on a mission to get this approved. She just personally has driven this, and with Sarah, and they've just done a great job. They're a great tag team. But Ed Manning, this last 2 weeks is where, we just kind of let go. And, we say from the administrative side and from, the GM side, it's like, we've done everything we can do to prep this. It's in your hands. And so Ed was phenomenal at pulling the lobbyists from all of our supporters together to go out and have that lobbying campaign in the last couple weeks to really seal the deal. And, his hard work to talk to the chair of appropriations and the governor's office and leadership of both the Assembly and the Senate was really phenomenal. And I sat with him in a call with the Rivas's office, not a call, we met in person with Rivas's office. And, just the amount of groundwork that goes on that, we all don't know about or are aware of, that just sets the stage for getting all these votes and for getting their support. And, we sat there with his staff and they're like totally off target on what SB 366 was. They just didn't, not that they didn't understand it, they just did not have time yet to get to it. And so, this is where Ed earns his reputation, where he's out there driving saying, we're not waiting around for you to read this at the last minute and form a position. We're going to tell you ahead of time why this is so valuable for Assemblyman Rivas. And so that was really educational, and you really saw where we hire a great lobbyist. And, the way he forms his arguments with, the staff was really impressive. And, and he did all this under his normal contract with Western. He was not part of the KP outreach campaign. So Ed and Jenny, just a phenomenal job. And, Michael was with him on a lot of this stuff too. So, just a really, really intense campaign. And like I said, a village may be an understatement of what it takes. And getting, the ag, I had no idea how many ag associations there are in California. I mean, it's soybeans, it's blueberries, raspberries, coconuts. I mean, everybody has and then all the people that ship it have an association, the people that pick it, the people that water it. I mean, there's an association for everything. And so when you look through, the list of all of our supporters, it's a whole bunch of people that were not on our radar screen. And so getting them to step up and put their logos and their support is really pretty impressive by our team. So the village was big. So next item. Went to the Urban Water Institute conference. Really good conference down in San Diego week before last. It's a very interesting conference. They have a lot of panels that are maybe a little more controversial than you would see at Aqua or some of the other associations. They're a little more honest and open. Honest, probably not the right word. Open might be the right word. And so you talk about some challenging topics. I use it because this is where we build the relationships for things like SB 366. Great conversations over lunch and dinner and out in the hallways. And I spent a lot of time with some of the ag reps, like Jason Phillips, who's the CEO for Friant, who's down there. And we spent hours trying to strategize on what the next steps are and how ag and urban comes together to really come up with solutions. So those conferences are a phenomenal opportunity where when he and I call each other on issues, we have 5 minutes. When we have dinner together, we've got 3 hours to talk about things. So great for that. And then one of the themes of the conference was regulatory reform. And there's a great panel with Heather Dyer the last afternoon. It's too bad it was the last afternoon. I think at the end of the day, people lose steam. But it was talking about how we have to change the regulatory environment on water, because what's happening, like in the Delta with the regulatory issues, and cutting back flows to save fish is not working. We're cutting back flows and the fish are doing worse and worse and worse. We have to come up with new means and measures and collaborative efforts that benefit the fisheries and benefit water distribution throughout the state, because what we're doing, failing is a strong word, but the numbers of fish are plummeting. And if you read the Aqua newsletter, the last one, go to near the back. Look at that, director has it right there in front. Go to the last page, right there. Hold that up. That is a great article, and you should hit that QR code. And it is talking about, those are south of Delta irrigation districts that are writing an article about why are we not surveying the amount of predator fish in the Delta that are eating all the fish that we're trying to save by changing pumping. And the article is talking about how we're not studying this scientifically, so how could we possibly be coming up with regulatory solutions when we don't even really know what's happening out there? And if you're a scientist, you're like, well, of course you would need to study everything. But that article is talking about we need a better push to actually study the predators, because the predators are eating all the fish before they even get to the Delta. So the numbers of salmon returning is terrible, because they're never even getting to the Delta to go to the ocean to come back again. So anyway, that's where the discussion on regulatory change is really relevant, and that's a perfect topic that Urban Water likes to really dive in on. So very good conference. That was all to say it was a good conference. My last one, and I'll try and save some for Director Densett on Met, but super busy at Met. Kevin and the CFOs and Ryan and Josh and Tim and myself and Sarah are spending a huge amount of time. Treated water cost recovery workshop has been going for months now. Kevin is super engaged. He is sharing all that information with all of our member agencies and their CFOs, and they have a work group so that they're hearing everything that we're hearing. We're finally getting to talking about proposed solutions and programs, so that's great. Met has done a very good job of getting this group up to speed on what's happened in the past and how we got there. So super complicated issues, so Met has a lot of background work to do so that we make well-informed decisions of solutions. So that's happening. We're getting to the solution, proposal, and contemplation stages, so that's great. Camp for Water Task Force kind of made a pivotal change in the last couple weeks. So we were contacted by the Met staff prior to the last camp workshop, wanting to know a little bit more about our perspective. They met with a few agencies to get their perspective, wanted to hear more about some of the comments we've been making. I think I shared with the board how they had proposed this Envision decision software that would score projects. When we met with the member agencies to kind of have a workshop about that, it was super complicated and overly complicated. And it was a software package that was meant for deciding other things, and they're trying to figure out how to make it work for the camp process. And the general managers basically said, it's just too complicated, it won't work, we're not gonna get the answers that we want, we gotta go a different direction. So thank goodness the Met staff were listening and said, we better find out more about this. So they started going around and saying, well, what do you mean by we gotta take a different path? And so they came back at the last task force with a new path. And so that was really good. It's not well defined because it's new, so we'll be waiting until the next camp workshop so they can have an opportunity to, better define what it would be. But a big step, but also a big change in the camp process. And I think it's going to move it towards more portfolio analysis than individual project scoring. So if you think about that, why scoring an individual pump station improvement by the Camp Task Force, they're not educated enough on the Met system to know if a pump station somewhere in the Met system is the best project Met should build. Very hard for policy people to make that decision. So we've been pushing with Met staff should come back with portfolios that include that pump station with a water supply project, with a conservation project. And so I hope that's where it's going now. Okay, Devin Upadhyay is continuing his meetings with the general managers, so that's great. Really enjoying those. Kind of have a different perspective with Devin as the interim general manager. So we'll see how that all shakes out. But the one thing that he has done since he got there is, remember, Met has the Camp for Water where we're looking at future projects, but then the business model came up and said, well, we need to think about the business model. Well, our position has been, how do we start deciding projects if we're evaluating the business model? Because the business model could change what projects that we would be voting on or proposing for the board to vote on. So we've been pushing for, we better make progress on the business model before we get too far on project or even portfolio evaluations. So Devin, through his leadership said, well, we need to have a standalone process to move the business model faster and further. So they've kind of put it in the hands of the member agency managers to do some of that evaluation of the current business model, come up with some potentially come up with some, we don't know if we're going to make that recommendation or not, but potentially come back to the task force with recommendations that they could consider. And so that's where we are right now. So we're planning 2 full-day retreats of the general managers to consider the current business model, think of refinements that we might want to propose to the task force, then it would come back to the task force for that. So that's going to take months. So originally it was, well, finish this by November. I don't think that's fair to the process. It's going to take more time than that. But I think the member agency managers we don't get many opportunities to do this. It's important work. We don't want to rush it. So I think it'll be a thoughtful process, and then it'll come back to camp. So that's a big avenue that we're heading down. Director Gardner and I are going to be attending the Met board meeting next Tuesday. Yep. So they've been going around and having, I guess, I term it as a special day for every member agency where you get to sit up in the big chairs. So Director Gardner and I get to go present to the Met board just a little bit about Western and then answer questions. So we're looking forward to that on Tuesday. And that's it. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Questions for Craig? Looks like not. Okay, directors' reports and requests. SWAPA is first. SWAPA did meet yesterday. They got updates on a number of ongoing projects, including evaluation of a piece of the Inland Empire brine line. We were not in attendance because we had important action items at EOWR, and there were no action items at SWAPA. Matt?
Well, Craig gave a lot of update going on. I think one of the important things to chime in on about the scoring criteria and everything that's going on for Camp for Water is there were several directors in the room, myself included, who did a little pushback on this methodology that they came out with and said, we don't get it. It's a little complicated. It's a little difficult to understand. And I think a comment that I made specifically was transparency doesn't just mean that we're putting things out there. Transparency means that we should be able to cut through all of the gray water and the muddled and the average person should be able to understand what it is that we're doing. It shouldn't be so complicated that the general public doesn't get it. And so I don't think that comment, as Craig said, I don't think that comment fell on deaf ears. I think they really understand, you know, they need to simplify it. These are incredible, all of our staff are incredibly intelligent people. But you're all really intelligent to yourselves. And sometimes you go way over the heads of the general public that just appreciate that they turn their faucet on and the water flows out. And they don't really go through all of the criteria of how that actually makes that happen. So while we appreciate it and we get it and we understand how complicated it is, we really need to figure out a very effective communication tool to be able to translate that to people who are not in the industry and the business, that understand what it is that we're doing and how we're making decisions with their money. So I also reached out to the chair and said, hey, I just wanted you to know all of these things happened with SB 366, and it would be great if Metropolitan could now stand in a support position of a member agency and come forward with the governor's office and write some type of a letter or bring this forward to committee or do something to be supportive in a way, because, you know, we are now past the watch and wait until amended phase, and this is now going forward. And which side do you want to be on? So I think with his text messaging back and forth with myself and Craig included over the weekend and some comments that were made, we're hoping for him to carry forward with what he said he would do, and we'll continue to report on that. So I'm hoping that Met will take a positive position and do exactly what they said they would do, and contact the governor's office in support of SB 366. So it would be nice if the 800-pound gorilla took a position. So, and then for next week, which is going to be very entertaining, I guess I'll be doing the introductions virtually because I will be sitting out at CSDA's conference in the desert while you guys go up to LA. So enjoy the drive. I won't miss it. I'll be on Zoom, and I will be happy to do the intros via Zoom out there. So, and that is about all I have. The meeting obviously is next week, so more to come. The general manager, we did make a decision. The general manager is continued on paid administrative leave until October the 23rd, at which time we are planning to have another closed session item on October the 22nd to discuss those matters in closed session. So that is what we continue to move forward towards. And Devin Apatier will continue as the interim general manager for Metropolitan at this time. And that is all I have to report.
Okay, thank you. Chino Basin Water Master met. It was, there was not a lot significant on the action agenda. There was a very interesting presentation from the general manager, kind of a first 100-day report in closed session. So I can't talk about it a whole lot. But he is an interesting guy. He's got some new ideas on how to do some things. And I think we will see a bit of change in the way Chino Basin Water Master functions. And one of his goals, and he said this outside closed session, is to continue to try to improve the relationship amongst the stakeholders in Chino Basin Water Master. There's a lot of history there. There's some old antagonisms. There's some current antagonisms. People have different ideas for how it ought to be structured and would like to be proposing things to the court to change structure. So I think Todd Corbin's focus on trying to keep all that civil and get more actual discussion going rather than mudslinging will be beneficial. course, the page won't turn. CDA, they are scheduled to meet tomorrow, but canceled the meeting. No agenda items. RCRA,
We were on a summer break. We will meet this month.
okay. WRCOG,
Next week.
Sarah,
Next week.
Aqua Region 9, next week.
Aqua Region 9, we did have our program, and I reported on that last time, which was very successful. And we had several attendees from Western at that for our program. We are going to be having a meeting this month. It'll be next week, and I'll have to take it virtually because I'll be at conference to discuss fall conference programming, and fall conference is scheduled for the first week of December, so I encourage all of you to attend, and that is my Aqua update.
Okay. Director's comments. Director Torres.
I just want to say hello. I am back. I was, no, I mean, maybe not notably, but I was gone this summer. I had to take care of some personal and health issues. But I'm back and need to catch up. I received a lot of emails that I plan to go back and reply to or address. But for the members of the public watching, please continue to feel free to reach out to me. You can email me at gracietorres.wd@gmail.com. It comes personally to me. We don't have to worry about it getting lost. Or you can call me or text me at 951-970-8692. I'm going to try to make my way around community meetings just to catch up and let people know that I'm back. And I do have a meeting scheduled with Craig so that I can get caught up here with him. But I do want to say I'm very grateful for those of you that reached out to me. And while I was gone, I appreciate it. I was in constant contact with Jeff and Tammy when I needed to be. So, but otherwise, I'm here and I'm excited. I hope everyone had a good start of the school year.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Director Rosen.
I just wanted to remind everyone that between now and our next meeting, September 11th comes around again, and I just would encourage you all to find some sort of a remembrance event or ceremony that you might be able to support or attend, because we do not ever want to forget that day. So I'm super blessed in my district. There are 3, and they're staggered. So my intent is to go to all 3 of them, and we'll hope that, keep my fingers crossed that nothing gets in the way of that. So I just wanted to remind everyone about that. And God bless America.
Director Dinstedt.
Yes, I do have just a couple of other things. I did want to mention that I did attend the Ag listening session that was held out at Eastern Municipal Water District on behalf of Metropolitan. And a lot of the avocado growers were there. And to understand how big the avocado industry is in California and how much we consume and how they contribute to the economy was really interesting, really huge. I had a couple of conversations with some of the folks that came out from the big growers and really encourage them to reach out to Metropolitan and send out an invite to do a tour of their facilities and see what it is that they do and all of the things that they go through, their fallowing programs, their grafting of new trees and taking out old, and the root system change, just so many different things that they are involved in. So I was really fascinated to have a conversation with all of them, and I look forward to hopefully them extending an invitation for us to come and visit some of the groves that they have down here, because they're very close by for us, down in Fallbrook and Rainbow. You'd be surprised at the production numbers that they have down there. And then I wanted to let everybody know I did attend the ribbon cutting for the pollinator garden down in Marietta at the library. It was nicely attended by very excited individuals to see this garden, and We contributed $25,000 to doing that garden down there. They removed over 5,000 square feet, I think, of turf. And so they're getting ready to do a garden expansion or a library expansion, so they'll be removing some more things. So hopefully we can do something else. I made a suggestion. It would be great if we could get, because it's a children's library edition, and I made some suggestions that perhaps it would be great if we could get a children's garden and some type of edible garden down there that we could help with. So looking for ideas and suggestions from staff to partner on that venture, because they're looking at pulling out the rest of their turf on the other side of the building. So we obviously want to be supportive of that. And it was just beautifully done. The signage is great. And they gave out little jars of the planting material seeds so that you could take and labeled all of them. So if you wanted to go and try to grow this, and I took 2, so I'm gonna see if it'll actually grow in my garden, and I'll take pictures. If I'm successful, I will take pictures. So, and then I will be attending CSDA, so I'll be looking forward to seeing if there's any information on, Prop 4 down there, and if they take a position, I'll certainly report that back. So, other than that,
Great.
that is all I have.
Director Rusti.
Alrighty, so I attended CASA's. So I don't know if you all know that I was elected to be a board of director at California Association of Sanitation Agencies, and I was and this is the first time I think anybody from Western has become a board of director. Tammy informed me, so I'm excited to represent everyone. I was there for one day. We had, it was a board member retreat. We got to, we got to meet the board. We had a board meeting. So the agenda item was one of the director of renewable resources, Greg Castor. He's been there with CASA for, I think, 30 years. He's retiring, so we have to look for a replacement for him. So, we had to approve a job description and all of that. And then we had a board retreat for vision and goals for what we want from CASA for next 2 years. So what the most important thing came out was more, the conferences has become really interesting, and more participation from agencies, and adding membership for more company. So that was very interesting. I learned a lot more about biosolids than I will be sharing. Yes, I will be sharing a lot of information throughout the years. So that's about it. Thank you.
Okay. I've got just a couple of things. First, did anything exciting happen at your house in the last couple of days?
Yes, it was my 50th birthday this
Happy
weekend.
birthday.
I celebrated. Yes, I celebrated a milestone.
Those keep coming around, trust me. Just a couple quick things on SB 366. I did send an email to the governor's office urging him to sign the bill as president of Western. And I think most of you know, I write a monthly column for the Raincross Gazette, which is an online newspaper. It publishes Monday, and I will be writing about SB 366 and how people who think it's a good idea ought to be contacting the governor's office, and here's how. And that's all I have. Do we have a request for future agenda items? Okay, if not, we do have closed session, so we will be adjourning to closed session. Holland, do you want to introduce that?
I sure do, thank you. At this time, the Board of Directors for the Western Municipal Water District will go into closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9. Thank you.
Okay, do we anticipate reportable action out of that?
I do not anticipate it, but obviously we will come back and
Of course, yeah, we'll come
if
back
there
and
is, we will
announce, but
report. Yeah,
for
but
anybody
we do
who
not.
is hanging on online,
Yeah,
chances are there won't be something to report.
yeah, thank you. Yeah.
All right. With that, we will adjourn to closed session, and we will be back after closed session.
He is on, so we just need to move everybody out into the waiting room. So move everybody out except for Andre Minette. Keep Andre and everyone else out.
Okay, we are returned from closed session. Mr. General Counsel, would you give a quick report?
Thank you, President Gardner. So the Board of Directors met in closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, and there was no reportable action taken.
Okay, and that concludes our meeting. Our next meeting is September the 18th at 9:30 here, and with that, we will be adjourned. Thank you all.